All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are now ready to kick off with our last talk of the summit, and that is going to be an AMA with Aya. We're going to bring her on in just a second, and this is going to be super fun. We're going to talk about everything from Aya's vision for Ethereum, the Ethereum Foundation, what's happening with a lot of the initiatives around the EF, and a few more things. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome her on stage and join me in this interview. Good morning, Aya.
Hello, good morning from here, Cardiff.
Oh. Perfect. So we'll keep this light and fun. I have a handful of questions here, and I'll kind of ask them. We'll change up orders. We'll go deeper into anything that fits. But I want to kind of start off with asking, what is your vision?
My vision for Ethereum, right? So I call it, I'm pretty sure you have heard of it, I call it Infinite Garden, and this is inspired by the book Finite and Infinite Games by James Cars, and where finite games are played for the purpose of winning, and infinite games are played for the purpose of continuing the game. And when I think about Ethereum, I don't just think about the technology. Technology is great, but how we work together, how the ecosystem people work together to continue the play. And then I think it's very special. And that vision influences technical decisions too, and also how implementations are being done. And I think that's very, very rare in this modern society, and also even rare in the blockchain space. So, and then the garden is for its diversity and its organic growth. And then I think this ecosystem wasn't really designed, like it kind of organically happened. Everything, like what you are doing too. Like we didn't really design everything at the beginning. Like when we first met, you and I remember when we first met in San Francisco, a lot of exploration and working together, discussions, and all these organic things. It's more natural. So, and then keeping the biodiversity in a weird way requires strong vision, deeply rooted in our mind, not just how we describe in words. So
this is super helpful. This helps us set the frame for a handful of other questions we have. So just as long as people keep this in mind, this will be insightful. So maybe let's switch gears. So I asked you for your vision of Ethereum. I guess if I were to say what is kind of, actually, I'll back up. You've been part of the Ethereum Foundation for 3 years now. You came on as executive director. Comparing, well, let's start with like 3 years ago. What did you want to achieve when you joined, and what were some of your aspirations there? And then we'll kind of roll into the Infinite Garden.
Yeah, so first of all, very honestly, I didn't start with like, okay, I became the executive director of the Ethereum Foundation, and here's a list of things I want to achieve. I could not start that way because no one told me, or no one knew what the EF really was, or who EF was. And also, and that is hugely really tied to like how the ecosystem is, and it's also like a live creature, and it is changing. And so it took a while for me to even think about what I need to achieve or what I need to start with. So that is the first thing, is to really understand and observe. I wish I had some time to become like almost like a chief observation officer or something. Just watch everything and learn. Yeah. So it took really a while everything was already going on. But within that, there are a couple of things. Maybe the first one was more clear, even like without deeper observation, is that the first one is to create a system to support teams and projects outside of the EF. Then this is actually related to some of the principle that I described, and then we call it subtraction. If we really care about the long-term health of Ethereum, like the ecosystem has to evolve outside of EF, and that is what I wanted to achieve. I wouldn't say I knew exactly by when, but I knew that has to happen. And when I joined in 2018 in the Ethereum Foundation, there were already many activities outside of EF, but there was not enough support system for the project outside. And this was also something Vitalik wanted to fix too. And we created ESP, Ecosystem Support Program, which we didn't really start with calling it that way. And to officially receive applications and give financial support. And then we started to think about like, wait, money is not the only thing EF can support, or maybe actually there are others. We should encourage others to give financial support, but there should be something only EF can do. So we started doing more proactive funding beyond just receiving applications. And, example of some of the teams that include ETH Global and Gitcoin, or like Austin, a lot of crazy stuff that Austin is doing. And he's great. And then Nomics Labs and some DevX work and more. So that is the first thing. And naturally, it's also related to the first one, but the second thing is to add more coordinating activities or functions, either within the EF or also, we do need to do that within the EF. That's how the EF works too, but also outside of in the ecosystem. And then for the things to happen organically, like projects like GET, Solidity, or those teams were born from the EF, but there are a ton of other important projects in the ecosystem, but they still have to work together. Yep. And then when the ecosystem grows, that creates new challenges, right? So two main challenges, I think, in the decentralized system or decentralization in general is redundancy and lack of ownership. Those can naturally happen, and I saw it, so that's why I can clearly say it. So when this is a startup or company, you would just start adding managers and create hierarchical reporting system. But since Ethereum is open and decentralized, and EF to some extent that we try to be that way, and EF managing all would defeat the purpose. So how do you coordinate and let others execute and make decisions even? It is a continuous goal, like we must pursue, and we have to keep improving the ways.
Yeah, no, a lot of themes here you've touched on, and it's funny because until you brought it up, I totally forgot. But ETH Global was part of the first wave of the grant recipients, and that's how we ended up bootstrapping our first couple of events. So it is definitely true. There's so many things that you could not have imagined back then that are now helping out create this ecosystem and more sustainable.
Yeah. And I think we never really talk about this because we don't really have the chance, but how we started, like when you and I first met, and then talked about, like the way East Global was functioning was also very different, right?
Yes.
And then you executed a lot after that. And then it's not like EF told East Global, here's the list of things we should. It was never like that. It was more like you propose the idea, and then you just keep doing it. It's like, and then we saw, oh wow, they are actually bringing in a lot of developers, and then so why don't we support more of this? And then it's always collaboration.
Exactly.
Between like what we think of, and then also what you discover, and then you help the entire ecosystem to hire, recruit more people, and then so that's kind of like a great example. Not everything has been that way, but and then it requires, you know, two-way interactions and collaborations and open-mindedness and everything.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. But yeah.
It's actually super interesting because today's a special day, because today is ETH Global's 4th birthday. Can't believe it's been 3 years. And
happy birthday.
we realized, oh, this doesn't feel like it's been 4 years. It feels like it's been one, but at the same time, the 1 year feels like it's been 4 years. So there's a lot of lessons and things that we never thought that have been happening or has happened.
Yeah, you couldn't plan this yes. COVID pandemic either. Yeah.
So speaking of things that you didn't know as you were joining, and you kind of said you didn't have a checklist, maybe concretely answering this now, like what would you say the vision and the mission of Ethereum Foundation is?
So I briefly touched that, but I think the vision of EF simply is the healthy Ethereum ecosystem, and then to understand what the definition of healthy and healthier, like you need to understand that the vision of infinite garden I just described. So, and then our mission is to keep help the ecosystem go towards that. And just growing the ecosystem, that is also important. Then we do care about the longevity of Ethereum, but it's, you know, the size and the length, those are not the only important things, or especially if we think about what only EF can do, and especially now when Ethereum is growing quickly and the ecosystem is growing quickly and new people are coming in. And I do think maintaining the health right. is something like maybe like we can contribute more than others. So that is again, like it wasn't very super clear from the very beginning, but I feel strongly so now.
What would you say then are sort of the principles that help you achieve that goal? Like what needs to be done from a mindset perspective?
Yeah, so I think the very, very important principle is like long-term thinking, and again, like we look at everything, how things work in the world. Unfortunately, a lot of systems, current existing systems, are not built that way. But if we are dealing with the technology that can build systems that are supposed to be used in society, we do have to think about the time that we do not exist. And Ethereum has been doing it already. Like if you think about like the time we don't exist, you can understand immediately why proof of work is not the option. And so that Ethereum has been making that technical decision too. So that is something, the reason why I want to keep it as our core principle is because it's more like a seeking the balance. Normally, everything goes toward short term without us even knowing about it. Like, what can we do quickly? Like, what do you, we use cell phone and then receiving messages from everywhere in the world. We just think about, okay, what is next? We have so much information we need to consume, and like you zooming out and then think about, okay, like what is the bigger picture? What is this going to look like in 5 years or even 10 years or 50 years? This is, yeah, it is challenging, right? Like even in our life.
I don't know what I want for breakfast tomorrow, and 5 years from now.
Yeah, do you pick what you eat now, thinking about that, how that would affect yourself in 5 years or 10 years?
It's hard.
There are some people who do that, but then it requires strong will. And so that's something of course, I'm getting help from like tremendous members of people at the Ethereum Foundation, but try to at least internally first letting people understand. And then there are a lot of like other short-term quick work that, other people, sometimes you do have to do that, like you have to finish it, right? But that is, I think that's very, very important for the Ethereum Foundation.
Absolutely. Speaking of the foundation, I think a lot of people, I don't think, have a really good idea of what the foundation is currently in terms of how big is it, how does it work. Could you give us an overview of like the operational side of the foundation? I'm sure a lot has changed, but tell us what the foundation is right now.
Yes. So, and then I know it's been a mystery. It was a big mystery for me too. Like I had no idea until I joined. And so outside of ongoing development teams like GAF, Solidity, and the big difference from the time before I joined is that now we have a bigger operation team. And I mean, bigger, compared to before, but within the operation, we have, of course, the organizational operations, which is for EF to function as an organization, and it's a non-profit organization. So we do have regular operations like finance and legal, but our main operation work is what we call ecosystem development, or EcoDev, which includes all different efforts to grow the ecosystem and keep it healthy. So this is kind of like being redesigned now, more like we don't really change activities, like everything. It's more like how we design is like we are about to just do that. So the team, like the teams like ESP, DevCon are also part of it, but we have more functions now, and some people are in charge of coordinating things for enterprise size and the new research topics that we need to like discuss more, how to support each topic, or things like like core dev calls are happening for the community, but someone needs to coordinate, like make sure that that is actually happening. Like we don't really manage the discussion, but we try to help that whatever the coalition needed. If they don't need us, that's great. So we have about 50 people in that work, like very broadly. But again, everything is collaborative work, like you and I talk or we talk. So there's no clear line between internal, external often. And I think that it's important to keep it that way. But for the purpose of having discussions or, having execution or ownership, we do have to have some like what we call clusters. And like Josh Stark is the genius of this describing it that way. But yeah, like loosely kind of like describe, but organized, but that's still kind of for now people to be like, even internally people like need to understand what others are working on so that they can do best job for themselves too. So a lot of the coordination, yeah, for example, like Ethereum.org or other things too. So
you talked about ecosystem development being a really big focus here. How many people are dedicated to ecosystem development right now at the foundation?
Oh, so that's about 50 people. And yeah, but it's roughly 50 people. Like some of them are like not
other things as well.
Yeah, not just like EF but then we need to involve them in this discussion. Then we have to bring someone in between people. So I think that's the right way. So I don't have the number, but around 50.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's great, actually. It's a really good number. Which means we got a lot more things done. I want to talk about a handful of initiatives you've helped sort of kick off while at your time at the EF. Mm-hmm. One project is the Next Billion. Could you tell us more about what that project is and why everybody should care about it?
Yes. So the team Next Billion started last year, and but that was something I cared, and I think it's more like last year. I thought, okay, this makes sense. This is not just my passion. This is good for Ethereum. And then when you look at the current state of Ethereum, like everything, like Ethereum has made tremendous achievement on the technology and the ecosystem and scaling, but I think it's time to think about who would benefit most next, or actually when this is going to be used, and then more builders are going to build, who will be next builders or users, and then you can understand what I was thinking. The term Next Billion, I didn't create it yet, but it's not really probably widely recognized. It means people in developing countries, because they represent that next 1 billion. The current world population is 7.7 billion or so, and then at least three-fourths of the next 1 billion would be from developing countries, and we know that. And the reason why I think it's important to look at Next Billion is not just for the numbers, but again, like Ethereum has overcome a lot of technical challenges for the platform. I do think implementation is going to be a bigger challenge. Like the challenge is around implementation. Right. And when you implement a new system, you want to focus on implementing the new system instead of having to take down old systems. So there's a huge advantage in the regions that do not have established old systems. And also, as I always say, people from Next Billion are creative. I mean, I don't say the others are not creative. It's more like they have to be creative just to live sometimes. So the constant brain training has, like given them potential to build something very, very creative. And then we've been already seeing it. And then from that team, that program we started this year is the EF Fellowship Program. And then basically the idea is to work with selected change makers who can kind of describe, like kind of like being an example of what I just said, and then show an example, not just for them to finish a project in their country, but that example could be copied or be kind of relearned by the rest of the world. So we pick those examples, and I've been kind of advocating their work, trying to speak, like whenever I get a chance to talk at an event, I include them and talk about them. So one fellow is Chewy from the team OS City, and then he's working basically what they call GovTech, or like Latin American governments. Like they're supporting technologies for public sectors. Like it's not just governments. But the reason why he came up with it is because he wanted to fix a lot of things around him in his life. And he realized that in order to fix that, like, the system needed to be changed. And some of the systems are, of course, run by public sectors. Right? And then you can, of course, create public goods without existing public sectors. But there is some, I call it actually natural sandbox that Latin American countries have. They don't maybe officially created it, but somehow it became like a natural sandbox because they have flexible-minded policies, or maybe they don't even have policies around anything yet. So it's been interesting. It's happening like really right now. I joined a talk last week or 2 weeks ago for the Colombia government. Was kind of like organized it, and then there is a lot of excitement. I mean, we already see that in the news of different countries. Some of them just decided to use crypto for their business or for like other things, but not beyond that. There are a lot of things. It's actually using Ethereum for the system, for the documentation and ID and all that. And so you're going to hear more exciting things coming out from the region. And of course, like we picked Colombia for DevCon location. Yeah, so there are other fellows are all great. And then again, this is not really for one project to make progress. I really want the rest of the world to learn from it, and hopefully, and we are actually looking for the next cohort. This was the first piloting year, and we have 4 members in the first cohort, and we are recruiting the next year's cohort. So if you know any meaningful projects or teams, or even like ideas from the emerging economies, please do let us know or shout at me. And then, yeah, we are currently recruiting.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll share that as a global, and for everybody watching it right now live, hopefully you also reach out to Aya as well. I kind of just realized that the Infinite Garden also is the name of a documentary on Ethereum that's being filmed right now. Is the EF, or are you involved with that documentary, or could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so that was also, speaking of really Infinite Garden, how everything happens organically, this was also interesting. How it happened is I recognized the new challenge for the community to keep the vision while Ethereum is growing. Like when you have newer people, it's hard for them to understand because especially when you can't really understand what's special about Ethereum just by reading the white paper, right? And then you do know that very well. And then I wondered what was the best way to describe what Ethereum is when it is not just about the tech. And then around the same time, we met the documentary team Optimist through our friend Morgan. And then the idea of Ethereum described in the documentary sounded more natural, because you do need to tell stories to fully understand. And then you need to also show people around. And then, so I spoke with the team, or we spoke with the team, and it's not like we are going to do this. It's more like they already have an idea and then wanted to create a documentary about Ethereum. And then I saw they understood our culture pretty well from the beginning. So I said yes to be part of it, and then also, Vitalik did, but also even if like Vitalik and myself are being part of it, this is supposed to be about the community. So it's been evolving naturally. You see our faces in their description, but we're just really tiny part of it. And then they've been like talking to community members naturally. And then they just decided to do the fundraising with NFT. This wasn't really planned from the beginning. And I was asking them, how are you going to fund the film? Because that was also important for me to make the decision, for us to make the decision. And then they're like, oh, we don't really have plans. So, and then that was the best way for the Ethereum documentary to be funded. And then we were not really, they just did the NFT fundraising supported by Mirror. EF was not part of it, but that is the beauty of it. And the director, Zach, told me normally main investors would have control over the creative decisions. So I thought that was wonderful that NFT can give freedom to artistic direction. And then how this happened naturally was also amazing. So I'm excited about it, but we don't know how the story goes. And then they keep learning, they keep meeting different people in the community. So it is like, you'll be surprised for me too, and very excited about it.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, I think all of us are eager to see what the final story is that comes out, what they think represents the Ethereum ecosystem. Getting a little bit serious here, what has surprised you the most over the last 3 years of being the executive director at the foundation?
So almost all of them were surprising. I had many heart attacks, but I thought I already had it because I've been in the crypto industry for a while. But great, like positive surprises too. But I think the one thing is before working on execution, like it was surprisingly hard to figure out who the hell EF is and how the ecosystem should be. It is really, and I kept wondering like, why is it so difficult? Like I couldn't really describe in a very like smart way in the beginning. And then also, but now looking back, I think it was right to take time, and I shouldn't have been able to explain it. So that was probably the biggest surprise, how this was really hard or there was no manual to learn from. And then I still feel that way, but now I have more people to discuss together with, and then it is very interesting and exciting, but I just realized that it's like we're dealing with live creature. So I used to be a teacher and I was in education, and like when you deal with human being or growing kid or a teenager, like you can't really just make the decision or the list of goals very fixed. You have to constantly flexibly like reshape or change your mindset yourself too. So I realized that was surprised that this is actually very similar to my oldest work in education. Well, and then also the rise of NFT was so this is like, I'm just mentioning it because this is recent, but this is not the only thing. But how something like NFT, which has been in, like,
4 years.
been there for a long time, and then what happened is, like, it's always out of your control or my control or our control, and so surprises are supposed to happen, and I'm pretty sure I will hear something surprising tomorrow. When I look at the list of like the news in the Ethereum every week, I'm always amazed and sometimes like, oh wow, this is like,
Garden is just becoming a jungle. Yes.
it is jungle. Yeah, it's a good thing, but it's hard to keep up with. Yeah,
absolutely. I have so you initially touched on this thing where you obviously joined 3 years ago, and you had a plan, kind of spent all this time understanding in the direction that the EF should move in. What has been working well with the plan that you've had, and how would you kind of say things are going?
The very perfectionist Japanese side of me would never be able to say anything is working well. But again, I believe we are doing something no one has ever done before. Is if we try to do it in the right way. It is not just, it's not just a nonprofit foundation. It's a lot more than that. Like foundation meaning just giving grants to everyone else. So again, like, like it took a while to figure out what this is about, and then we are supposed to do, and then so actually last year, when I joined, I felt everything was thrown at us, like the EF, like almost like, oh, we have to do everything. But and then like always we prioritize Ethereum, right? That's what we are supposed to do. Like it's not, we don't really work for the EF, we more like the EF works for the best of Ethereum. But last year, I realized that, okay, like there are a lot of improvements we need to do at the organization. It's more like when you're not healthy, you can't really support others. So I created a team to do the organizational improvements, like really, meaning like they also have to do a lot of things. We don't really have a lot of people, but like, hey, let's just actually do sprint planning every week to make even like little progress on everything, because we tend to prioritize Ethereum, and Ethereum like keeps going, and we just never have time to look at us and then how we do things, or things like HR and how we actually take care of our people. So last year, like it's actually like 2 years after I joined, but why don't we just do, make not prioritize that compared to the rest of the thing. It's more like, hey, let's make progress every week. So there is a dedicated team now, and so we are making little progress little by little, thanks to the team members there, and then gradually we are able to actually see ourselves with better views, and then understand, oh, this is how we should describe, this is what we care, this is how we should explain to the new people, to the EF, what we really care, instead of like, trusting everyone to understand everything without explaining. So things like onboarding. So we are making good progress. And then again, like someone like Josh, he is an excellent project manager, right? I don't know, like he keeps
yes,
like getting things done and then still smiling, like never looks looking exhausted. So I'm always impressed with that. But so we are making progress thanks to great people like Josh. And then again, like still ongoing.
I think where you're coming from is a little bit of structure is not a bad thing, and if anything, that's helping you move faster into prioritizing everything that you want to do for the Ethereum ecosystem. Maybe on that same note, what is not going well?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things were not going well. That and then we tried to change that, and then we were making efforts, and then again, like we were making progress. Currently, I would say still finding the right balance. Still, people expect EF to do more or a lot, and then internally, there's also tendency, okay, we should do this to add more, and then like, yeah, we do need to add more to help more, but like finding the right balance, and then really helping people to understand we do need to seek the balance, like we thinking about, okay, like if we start doing this, how long are we going to do this, and then we can't do this forever kind of thinking. So that is a challenge. But also now we feel ready to make more progress and redesign things. Hiring is not easy, and to be honest, that's really I don't know if it's not working better. It's more like yeah, we have to get better at hiring people, especially at like EF eco-dev type of operations. I explained the coordination and support work, outside of dev and researchers. Like finding talented people itself is always, of course, not easy, but finding those who are aligned with our principles or have potentials to be aligned with our principles, that is really hard. Again, EF is a nonprofit organization, but it's not easy, especially weirdly when the market is doing well.
Yeah,
that's my honest
a lot of choices.
thinking. Yeah, it's like finding mission-based people. I'm pretty sure those people exist there, right? But we get more noises, and then we need to screen more than the harder winter time, like I would say. So yeah, and then also the challenge, especially since last year, is we used to actually rely on the places like ETHOnline hackathons or those events, because those are the places we can actually see how people are interacting with others, and then kind of like easier to find, or like you can't really see that in the resume and things. So that is a big challenge since the COVID started. So if anyone knows the great creative ways to find people, and also like, for example, ESB is hiring the lead.
Supporting grants and research, or want to help with the foundation.
Yes.
Ethereum.
Yes.
You can get in touch with me or Aya, and we'll be happy to get you to the right person to learn more about that.
Yes. Thank you, Kartik.
All right. So I know we've talked about the past and the present a lot, but I want to ask one final question, and we can wrap it up. What can we expect and look forward to from the Ethereum Foundation in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, the technical side and research side probably have been already described by Danny and Vitalik enough. Outside of that, again, like we are redesigning things, so you will see more, maybe better description of what we are doing. And we are working on improving our website and things like that related to like, sharing our vision and our principles and our ways in a better way. And other than that, you will hear, I can't say this today, but announcement related to DevCon very soon. I know everyone is waiting for it. Something extra. I hope this will be a good surprise. I don't know. Maybe
it's like a surprise.
Maybe if I say this, and and then again, EF fellowship program is recruiting the new cohort, and you will hear a lot of progress that the current cohort members has been making. It is very inspiring, and oh yes, so like things like client diversity, well, diversity in general, that we do care, and I do care too, and then not just like a regional diversity for the ecosystem, but also there are a lot of efforts that are being made for client diversity, and you will hear more of the efforts in that. So
an exciting
again,
next 12 months.
2022, we hope to share a lot of positive things, and as EF, we will try to share more information. This has been kind of, since last year, this has been kind of like a heads down. Let's
focus mode.
Get working on the improvements and everything. So hopefully we can share more of that work, efforts, and outcome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think from our perspective, we do notice the change and the velocity and communication that's been happening, getting everybody informed. So I can say it's working. Well, Aya, thank you so much for this amazing chat. We do have a couple more slides I want to go through. I think it'll be great for you to stick around for that for a second. But to summarize, everybody, looks like there's a lot coming in the next 12 months. You got ETH2, we got efforts around client diversity. And of course, what everybody is probably more excited about is the next DevCon and whatever this new announcement is. So I hope we get to learn more about that and the date soon. But I really appreciate this. And thanks for everybody who stuck around and watch the rest of the summit with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kartik.
All right. So before we end this, I want to take a quick second to just thank everybody here on what an amazing past 4 years it's been. ETH Global started on the 15th of October in 2017, where we did our very first hackathon called ETH Waterloo. It may feel like forever now, but a little thing called NFTs were invented there 4 years ago, and we're finally coming back and seeing how long it takes for something like this, or just in general technologies to kind of propagate and get excited and be used in new and creative ways. So it's been an incredible past 4 years. These are some of the stats we pulled for this. We have over 100,000 hours of content that's been watched from the talks and workshops and interviews we've done at our events. We had over 30,000 people been onboarded. We've seen over 3,500 projects being created in the space since we started, and we've given out $3 million in prizes that have been given out to the attendees with nothing in return for all their amazing work and getting them excited about what's possible with Web3. On top of that, it's not just this, we have some other intangibles. People have formed a lot of companies from these projects. We've seen over $200 million raised by companies formed from ETH Global Hackathons, which currently represent over $4 billion in market cap. Hundreds of jobs and opportunities have been formed. And on top of that, thousands of friendships that there's no way we can measure, but we know that we ourselves are the beneficiaries of these incredible things. So I want to thank everybody here for being part of our community, and it's super excited to wake up and work on all these amazing events and summits and talks and helping everybody sort of learn and get more excited about Web3 like we do. So I want to thank everybody one more time. And with that, we are at a close for ETHOnline, which has been our biggest event in our history. So thank you so much for everybody who participated in the summits, the hackathon, the talks, the questions, and I wish you all a happy Friday. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for our next hackathon, which is Unicode. So we'll see you all on Discord and ETHGlobal.tv and Twitter and every other place on the internet. In the meantime, hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll see all of you shortly and enjoy some lo-fi beats. Thanks, everybody.